So, but the habits you develop, and I go back, the other thing is have the right heroes. I mean, I've always been lucky in that respect. And if the people you look up to are going to form your vision of what the world, how you want to be in later life. And I'll give you two pieces of advice. I'd invest as much in myself as you can. I mean, you're your own biggest asset by far. I mean, you've got all kinds of potential. All the people in this room, you're lucky to be in this country, gotten a good education, but most people go through life using up a very, very small part of their potential. And so anything you do that invests in yourself, that's the best investment you can possibly make. And then I would follow my passion. I mean, whatever turns you on. I was lucky. I found something early that turned me on. But you don't want to take a job just for the money. You don't want to take a job for an organization that you really don't feel good about, or work for people that you don't feel good about. You really want to be excited when you get out of bed every morning. And it won't necessarily be the job that you have 10 years later, but you'll be learning so much as you go along. And I took a job with Ben Graham, my hero, and I never asked the salary, and I found at the end of the month when I got my first paycheck what I was earning, because I just knew it was the right thing to be doing. So I would follow. The worst investment I ever made? How long do you have? I've made some very bad ones, but that doesn't really bother me. It may bother the shareholders, but that's another question. You're going to make mistakes in life. I mean, there's no question about it. You don't want to make them on the big decisions, who you marry and some things like that. So there's no way I'm going to make a lot of business and investment decisions without making some mistakes. I may try to minimize them. I don't dwell on them at all. I don't look back. The biggest mistakes are the ones that actually don't show up. They're the mistakes of omission rather than commission. We've never lost that much money on any one investment. But it's the things that I knew enough to do that I didn't do. We have missed profits of as much as maybe $10 billion in things that I knew enough to do and I didn't do. Now, the fact I didn't buy Microsoft way back is not a foregone opportunity, because I didn't know enough to make that decision. But there have been other investments where I did know enough to make the decision, and for one reason or another, I either didn't do it at all, or I did it on a small scale. I was sucking my thumb when I should have been writing checks, basically. And those don't show up. There's no place where it shows missed opportunities, but I've missed some big ones. The triumphs in life are partly triumphs because you know that everything isn't going to be a triumph. And I would never get too hung up on mistakes. I know a lot of people that really agonize over them, and it just isn't worth it. I mean, tomorrow's another day, and you live it forward and just go on to the next thing.
जब वॉरेन बफेट सिर्फ 11 साल के थे, तब उन्होंने पहली बार शेयर खरीदा। कंपनी का नाम था सिटीज सर्विस। उन्होंने $38 में शेयर लिया। कुछ ही दिनों में कीमत गिरकर $27 हो गई। एक बच्चे के लिए ये बड़ा झटका था, लेकिन उन्होंने घबराहट में बेचने की बजाय इंतजार किया। कीमत धीरे धीरे $40 तक पहुंची। जैसे ही थोड़ा मुनाफा दिखा, उन्होंने बेच दिया। उन्हें लगा उन्होंने बड़ी समझदारी दिखाई, लेकिन असली कहानी यहीं से शुरू होती है। कुछ महीनों बाद वही शेयर $200 तक चला गया। उस दिन उन्होंने एक ऐसा सबक सीखा जिसने पूरी जिंदगी की दिशा तय कर दी। धैर्य बाजार में सबसे बड़ी ताकत है।
Question is, somebody who is not an investment professional will be, I hope, reasonably elderly by the time that the estate gets settled. And what is the best investment, meaning one that there would be less worry of any kind connected with, and less people coming around and saying, why don't you sell this and do something else and all those things. She's going to have more money than she needs. And the big thing then you want is money not to be a problem. And there will be no way that if she holds the S&P, or virtually no way, absent something happened with weapons of mass destruction, but virtually no way that she'll have all the money that she possibly can use. She'll have a little liquid money so that if stocks are down tremendously at some point, they close the stock exchange for a while, anything like that, she'll still feel that she's got plenty of money. And the object is not to maximize. It doesn't make any difference whether the amount she gets doubles or triples or anything of the sort. The important thing is that she never worries about money the rest of her life. And I had an Aunt Katie here in Omaha, who Charlie knew well, and worked for her husband, as did I. And she worked very hard all her life and had lived in a house she paid, I don't know, $8,000 for, 45th and Hickory, all her life. And because she was in Berkshire, she lived to 97. She ended up with, a few $100 million. And she would write me a letter every 4 or 5 months, and she said, "Dear Warren, I hate to bother you, but am I going to run out of money?" And and I would write her back, and I'd say, "Dear Katie, it's a good question, because if you live 986 years, you're going to run out of money." And then about 4 or 5 months later, she'd write me the same letter again. And I have seen there's no way in the world, if you've got plenty of money, that it should become a minus in your life. And there will be people, if you've got a lot of money, that come around with various suggestions for you, sometimes well-meaning, sometimes not so well-meaning. So if you've got something that's certain to deliver, it was all in Berkshire, they'd say, well, if Warren was alive today, he would be telling you to do this. I just don't want anybody to go through that. And the S&P will be I think actually what I'm suggesting is what a very high percentage of people should do something like that. And I don't think they will have I think there's a chance they won't have as much peace of mind if they own one stock and they've got neighbors and friends and relatives that are trying to do some, like I say, sometimes well-intentioned, sometimes otherwise, to do something else. And so I think it's a policy that will get a good result and is likely to stick. Charlie?
बफेट को बचपन से पैसों का खेल समझ में आता था। वे च्युइंगम घर घर बेचते थे, कोका कोला की बोतलें बेचकर छोटा मुनाफा कमाते थे और अखबार बांटते थे। 13 साल की उम्र में उन्होंने अपना पहला टैक्स रिटर्न भरा। सोचिए, उस उम्र में ज्यादातर बच्चे क्रिकेट खेलते हैं और वो लड़का टैक्स प्लानिंग सीख रहा था। आगे चलकर उन्होंने बेंजामिन ग्राहम से निवेश के सिद्धांत सीखे, वैल्यू इन्वेस्टिंग। उनका मानना था कि शेयर बाजार रोज कीमत बताता है, लेकिन असली काम है कंपनी की वैल्यू समझना। उन्होंने हमेशा मजबूत बिजनेस, ईमानदार मैनेजमेंट और लंबी अवधि पर भरोसा किया। आज वे दुनिया के सबसे सफल निवेशकों में गिने जाते हैं, लेकिन उनकी जीवन शैली साधारण है। वे अब भी उसी घर में रहते हैं जो उन्होंने दशकों पहले खरीदा था। उनका संदेश साफ है, अगर आप जल्दी अमीर बनने की कोशिश करेंगे तो शायद कभी अमीर नहीं बनेंगे।
The president's action on steel probably had something to do with the timing of the decline, but I don't think it was the factor which determined the amount of the decline. For some time, stocks have been rising at rather rapid rates. Corporate earnings have not been rising. Dividends have not been increasing, and it's not to be unexpected that perhaps a correction of some of those unusual factors on the upside might occur on the downside.
Some observers from time to time say that the stock market is a forecaster of events to come. Can you predict, or would you care to take a look at what you think this might be forecasting, the decline?
The stock market has been a good forecaster from time to time in the past. It also has been a rather poor forecaster occasionally. For example, the last 4 or 5 years, the stock market has been booming along and presumably forecasting better business, which has really not materialized. Corporate profits are not any better than they were 5 years ago, but stock prices are 50% higher or thereabouts. So maybe the stock market is really correcting a previous incorrect forecast this time rather than making a new correct one.
Well, in a nutshell, Mr. Buffett, can you give us your opinion of just exactly what happened, what caused it?
Well, there was undoubtedly some forced selling the week when the stock market hit the news. The previous week, prices had declined about 6% for the week on average. And there was some stock that was forced upon the market both by margin calls from brokers and some that was forced out by improperly secured bank loans. And this in turn set up a self-generating mechanism on the downside for a while, which we may have seen the last of and which we may not have seen the last of.
अगर आप स्टॉक मार्केट में नए हैं तो वॉरेन बफेट की कहानी सिर्फ प्रेरणा नहीं, एक रोड मैप है। उन्होंने कभी शॉर्टकट नहीं ढूंढे। उन्होंने ट्रेंड के पीछे भागने के बजाय बिजनेस को समझना सीखा। याद रखिए, मार्केट रोज शोर करेगा, लेकिन आपको शोर नहीं, वैल्यू सुननी है। जल्दी अमीर बनने की कोशिश आपको थका देगी, लेकिन सही कंपनी को सही कीमत पर खरीदकर धैर्य रखना आपको आगे ले जाएगा। तो शुरुआत छोटी करें, सीखते रहें और हर निवेश से पहले खुद से एक सवाल पूछें, क्या मैं इस कंपनी का पार्ट ओनर बनना चाहूंगा? क्योंकि स्टॉक मार्केट ट्रेडिंग का खेल नहीं, समझदारी और समय का खेल है।